So, how do we get from just talking about disability inclusion to actually making it a reality? It's a huge question, right? Well, the answer might not be what you think. It's not about one person's massive effort, but about the incredible power we have when we work together. Today, we're diving into a super practical guide on how to build networks that create real, lasting change.
This proverb, it's pretty much the theme for everything we're talking about today. It perfectly frames collaboration not just as a nice idea, but as the only way to get to where we really want to go. It's all about going far together.
Okay, so before we jump into the step-by-step how-to, we really need to get our heads around the why. Why is working together so absolutely crucial? What are we actually up against? Well, you see, persons with disabilities are often facing a triple threat of barriers. First, you've got institutional barriers. We're talking discriminatory laws and policies. Then there are the attitudinal ones, things like prejudice, stereotypes, and fear. And finally, you have environmental barriers, buildings you can't get into, transport you can't use. Each one of these can create this deep sense of isolation and really limit a person's opportunities. And this is where you really see the difference. Look at the contrast here. When you're trying to tackle this stuff alone, your voice is limited, you feel isolated, and you end up repeating work others are already doing. But together, everything changes. You create a powerful collective voice. You share what you know. You challenge those huge barriers as a team, and you coordinate your actions for way more impact. So together sounds great, but what does that actually look like in practice? The answer is something called a community-based inclusive development network, or a CBID network for short. This is the practical tool we can use to make this journey a reality. At its heart, a CBID network is basically a coalition. It brings people together from all different sectors: health, education, social services, you name it. And they're all focused on one thing: sharing information and advocating for the rights of persons with disabilities right there, at the community level. This is how you take big ideas, like the UN Convention, and actually make them work on the ground. And what's really cool about these networks is how they're set up. They're always multi-sectoral. And here's a key point. Their main job is networking and advocacy, not actually running the projects themselves. That keeps them really lean and focused. Plus, membership is open to anyone, and they can get started without a bunch of expensive formal paperwork, which makes them super flexible and sustainable right from the get-go. All right, here we go. This is the heart of it all. How do you actually build one of these incredible networks? Let's walk through this 10-step blueprint that can take you from just an idea all the way to making a real measurable impact. So the first 4 steps are all about building a really solid foundation. You need coordinators who are truly committed, and it's absolutely vital that at least one of them is a person with a disability. You know, nothing about us without us. Then you make sure everyone's on the same page about the goals, you bring in your founding members, and you set some clear ground rules so the whole thing runs smoothly. Okay, you've got your foundation. Now it's time to bring the network to life. Steps 5 through 8 are about getting things moving. This means sharing information constantly, having regular meetings to keep the momentum going, and using some smart tools to figure out what your community actually needs. From there, you can set specific, achievable targets that everyone can work towards as a team. And finally, the payoff. Step 9 is where the magic happens. This is where you work together on joint advocacy and start to see real, tangible change. And step 10 is all about the future, constantly growing the network, bringing in new voices, and always keeping an eye on your progress. This is how the network becomes a true, unstoppable force for change. Now, to make all this work, the guide points out 2 fantastic tools that help networks focus their energy. And trust me, these aren't just for show. They are absolutely essential for turning your passion into a clear, effective plan. First up is the CBR matrix. Think of it like a checklist to make sure you're looking at the whole picture of a person's life. By considering these 5 key areas: health, education, livelihood, social, and empowerment, you guarantee that you're not missing anything and that your approach to inclusion is truly holistic. This is such a perfect example of the power of SMART targets. On one hand, you have a vague goal like sensitize parents. What does that even mean? How do you know when you've done it? But when you make it a SMART target, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, it becomes advocate with 5 specific families. Now you have a concrete, actionable plan. You know exactly what success looks like. So we've covered the why and the how, but the big question remains: does all of this actually work?
Let's take a look at the proven impact these networks are having out in the real world.
And the answer is a resounding yes. The guide shows that in places like Zambia, Zanzibar, and Uganda, these networks are not just a theory. They're described as going from strength to strength, sharing information every day, and proving to be a genuinely powerful voice for persons with disabilities.
This quote right here, it says it all. When people went to visit schools, they didn't go as individuals from different organizations. Nope, they went as one unified CBID network. And the result? Their advocacy was, quote, much more powerful. That is the tangible result of going far together.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. The blueprint is here. The proof that it works is here. The only real question left is the one on your screen. What barrier in your community is just waiting for a powerful collective voice to come along and challenge it? What could you achieve by deciding to go far together?